Lieutenant Christopher Mason stood at attention in the gleaming white conference room of the International Space Station Alpha, trying to hide his nervousness. This was humanity's first official meeting with the Galactic Coalition, and as Earth's military representative, he couldn't afford to show any weakness. The room was filled with delegates from both Earth and various alien species, creating an atmosphere thick with anticipation. The Arcanian ambassador, with his silvery skin and flowing robes, stepped forward. To demonstrate our good faith and technological advancement, he announced in perfect English, "We wish to show you our standard peacekeeping tools." His translator crystal pulsed with each word. Mason exchanged glances with Dr. Laura Phillips, who sat among the scientific delegation. Something about the ambassador's choice of words made him uneasy. The military officer in him didn't like surprises, especially not during first contact situations. Two Arcanian guards brought forward what looked like sleek, silver rifles. The human delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Mason's hand instinctively moved toward his hip, where his sidearm would normally be, but found nothing. All weapons had been banned from the meeting, or so they had thought. "Please, do not be alarmed," the ambassador said, noting the humans' reactions. "These are merely low-powered demonstration models of our standard energy weapons. They cause temporary paralysis, nothing more." He gestured to one of his guards. "Perhaps a demonstration would ease your concerns." Before anyone could object, the guard raised his weapon and fired at Mason. A bright blue beam struck him in the chest. The human delegates gasped. Mason braced himself for pain, but felt only a mild tingling sensation, like static electricity on a dry day. He remained standing, completely unaffected. The room fell silent. The Arcanian guard's 4 eyes blinked rapidly in confusion. He adjusted something on his weapon and fired again. Mason felt a stronger tingling, but nothing more. The ambassador's silver skin took on a distinctly pale shade. This is impossible. These weapons can incapacitate any known species in the coalition." Dr. Phillips stood up, her scientific curiosity overtaking protocol. "Fascinating. Lieutenant Mason, are you experiencing any effects at all?" "Just a slight tingling, ma'am. Like when your foot falls asleep, but milder." The other alien delegates began murmuring among themselves. A tall, reptilian Vexthor in the corner watched the scene with unblinking yellow eyes, his scaled fingers tapping rapidly on his datapad. The guard tried one more time, at full power. This time, Mason felt a warm wave pass through his body, but remained standing. "Sir, permission to approach the weapon for inspection?" he asked, maintaining protocol despite the bizarre situation. The ambassador nodded numbly, and Mason walked over to examine the device. As he reached for it, the guard quickly pulled it back, fear evident in his body language. Dr. Phillips was already running scans with her tablet. "The weapon is definitely active and functioning. According to these readings, it's emitting a focused beam of plasma energy that should be interfering with neural pathways. Lieutenant Mason should be unconscious right now." "Maybe it's just me," Mason suggested. "We should test it on someone else." He looked around the room, but the other human delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "I volunteer," said Officer Amy Martinez from the security detail. She stepped forward, her stance professional but her eyes betraying excitement. The guard, after receiving a nod from the ambassador, fired at Martinez. The same result. She remained standing, reporting only mild tingling sensations. The ambassador's translator crystal flickered rapidly as he spoke in his native language to other coalition members. The Vexthor delegate had stopped tapping and was now recording everything with intense focus. "This is unprecedented," the ambassador finally said. "In all our centuries of space exploration and contact with new species, we have never encountered one naturally resistant to energy-based weapons. This will need to be studied. The implications are significant." Mason caught Martinez's eye, and they shared a concerned look. They both knew that being unique in the galaxy wasn't always a good thing. Humanity had just revealed a significant tactical advantage they didn't even know they had, and judging by the calculating looks from some of the delegates, particularly the Vexthor, not everyone was happy about this discovery. Dr. Phillips was practically bouncing with excitement, already preparing research proposals in her mind. But Mason's military training told him something else. Humanity's first contact had just become a lot more complicated than anyone had expected. Dr. Laura Phillips couldn't stop staring at the test results on her screen. For the past 3 weeks, she had been working with alien scientists in the Coalition's main research facility on Europa, trying to understand humanity's strange resistance to energy weapons. The facility's curved crystal walls sparkled under the artificial lights as she reviewed the data for the 100th time. "The results make no sense," said Zerl, her Synphos research partner. The artificial being's metallic face displayed shifting patterns of blue light, indicating deep thought. Human cellular structure should not be able to disperse energy this effectively. Laura rubbed her tired eyes. The lab was filled with complex equipment from a dozen different alien civilizations, all focused on studying human tissue samples. Lieutenant Mason and Officer Martinez had volunteered to be their first test subjects, and more volunteers had followed. "Show me the comparison scan again," Laura asked. Zerl projected a hologram showing the cellular reaction of different species to energy weapons. The alien samples all showed massive disruption when hit with the energy beam. The human samples, however, did something extraordinary. "Look at that pattern," Laura pointed excitedly. "Our cells aren't just resistant. They're actually channeling the energy through some kind of natural network." She zoomed in on the microscopic image. "It's like we have built-in lightning rods at a cellular level." The door slid open with a soft hiss, and Lieutenant Mason walked in for his daily tests. "Any breakthroughs today, Doc?" he asked, rolling up his sleeve. "Chris, you won't believe what we found," Laura said, turning the hologram so he could see it. "Remember how humans evolved to handle electrical signals in our nervous system? Well, it seems our entire cellular structure evolved to handle and redirect energy. When an energy weapon hits us, our bodies treat it like a massive electrical surge and actually ground it." "You mean like a lightning strike?" Mason asked, looking at the complex patterns of energy distribution in the human cell samples. "Similar, yes. But it's more than that. The Coalition's energy weapons work by overloading the target's nervous system. But human nerve cells developed on a planet with frequent electrical storms. We're natural conductors and insulators at the same time." A tall Vexthor scientist named Kex entered the lab, his scaled skin reflecting the hologram's blue light. "Fascinating discovery, Dr. Phillips," he said, his voice surprisingly soft for such an imposing figure. "Our weapons were designed to work against species with simpler nervous systems. We never encountered a species that evolved on a planet with such intense electrical activity." Laura noticed Mason tensed slightly at the Vexthor's presence. The militant species have been showing unusual interest in their research lately. "The implications are incredible," Laura continued, choosing her words carefully. "This could revolutionize shield technology. If we can replicate this cellular energy distribution pattern artificially, that would be quite an achievement," Kex interrupted, his yellow eyes narrowing. "Though some might consider it a dangerous one." The room grew quiet. Even Zerl's light patterns slowed to a cautious pulse. "Science is neither dangerous nor safe," Laura said firmly. "It's how we use it that matters. This research could lead to better protection for all species, not just humans." Mason stepped forward slightly, positioning himself between Laura and Kex. "Dr. Phillips is right. The Coalition is about sharing knowledge for everyone's benefit, isn't it?" Kex's scaled lips curved into what might have been a smile. "Of course. Please, continue your excellent work." He turned and left the lab, his clawed feet clicking on the crystal floor. Once he was gone, Zerl's lights shifted to a concerned purple. "The Vexthor rarely shows such interest in defensive research. They prefer offensive capabilities." "All the more reason to continue our work," Laura said, turning back to her screens. The sooner we understand this, the better. She pulled up new test results, trying to focus on the data rather than the growing political tension she could feel building around their discovery. Mason stayed in the lab longer than necessary that day, casually positioned near the door. Both he and Laura knew that their breakthrough wasn't just scientific anymore. It was becoming something much more complicated. The question was, would the Coalition see humanity's unique ability as an opportunity for advancement, or as a threat to their existing power structure? Chief Security Officer Daniel Wright stood at the observation deck of Earth's lunar base, watching the steady stream of alien ships moving through space. In the 3 months since the discovery of humanity's energy weapon resistance, traffic in Earth's solar system had increased tenfold. Not all of it was friendly. "Sir, you need to see this," Officer Martinez said, hurrying into the room with a data tablet. "We've detected unusual movement patterns in the Kuiper Belt. Ships are gathering there, trying to stay out of our regular scan range." Daniel studied the readings, his frown deepening. "Vex Thor ships?" "Yes, sir. At least 12 of them, maybe more. They're using asteroid shadows for cover." Through the reinforced windows, Earth glowed blue and peaceful in the distance. Daniel thought about how quickly things had changed. The Coalition had welcomed humanity at first, but that welcome had grown colder since Dr. Phillips' research began showing just how unique humans were. "Any word from our friends in the Coalition?" Daniel asked, turning away from the window. Martinez shook her head. "The Arcanians claim they don't know anything about the ship movements. The Meridians suggest we're being paranoid. Only the Synthos seem concerned, but they're being careful about what they say." A soft chime announced another arrival. Lieutenant Mason stepped out of the elevator, still wearing his lab coat from his latest session with Dr. Phillips' research team. "Chris," Daniel greeted him. "How's the research going?" "Dr. Phillips thinks we're close to understanding how to replicate the energy dispersing effect," Mason reported. "But we've got bigger problems. I just overheard something in the lab. The Vex Thor aren't just worried about our natural resistance anymore. They're afraid of what we might do with it." Martinez pulled up another scan on her tablet. "That matches what we're seeing. Look at these energy readings from the hidden ships. They're not carrying energy weapons. They're loaded with old-style kinetic weapons, missiles, railguns, things that would work against humans." Daniel walked to his console and pressed his palm against the security scanner. A hidden screen emerged from the wall, showing classified defense readings from across the solar system. Red dots lit up everywhere: unregistered ships, unauthorized scanning beams, and strange energy signatures. "They're preparing for something," Daniel said quietly, "and they're being thorough about it. These readings go back weeks. They've been positioning assets while pretending to participate in diplomatic talks." Mason leaned against the wall, his face troubled. "Dr. Phillips said something interesting today. She said that in nature, unique adaptations often lead to either extinction or dominance. The species around us either wipe out the new threat or end up having to adapt to it themselves. And the Vex Thor aren't known for adapting," Martinez added grimly. Daniel turned back to the window, watching the distant ships move like stars against the black of space. "Have you noticed how they're spreading out? Classic encirclement pattern. They're not just gathering in the Kuiper Belt. They're positioning themselves all around the solar system." "What do we do?" Martinez asked. "If we act without proof, we'll look like the aggressors. The Coalition might turn against us completely. And if we wait too long, we might not be able to act at all," Mason added. Daniel pressed another button on his console, sending a priority alert to Earth's Defense Command. "We get ready, quietly. Increase patrols, but make them look routine. Station more ships near our research facilities, especially Dr. Phillips' lab on Europa. And most importantly, we keep working on that energy-dispersing technology. If the Vex Thor are planning what I think they're planning, we're going to need every advantage we can get." The three officers stood in silence, watching the deceptively peaceful scene outside. Somewhere out there, hidden behind asteroids and diplomatic smiles, their first real interstellar crisis was brewing. Humanity had survived first contact, but now they had to survive the consequences of being different in a galaxy that feared change. Officer Amy Martinez crouched in the darkened maintenance tunnel of Europa Station, her breath forming small clouds in the cold air. She had been tracking a series of mysterious equipment failures across the station for the past week. At first, they seemed like random accidents. A broken sensor here, a failed power coupling there. But she had noticed a pattern that worried her. Her wrist computer blinked silently, warning of movement ahead. She pressed herself against the icy wall and waited. Two figures moved past her hiding spot, their shadows long in the emergency lighting. They weren't wearing station uniforms. The humans suspect nothing. One voice whispered in accented English. They think these are normal equipment failures. Commander Zarkax will be pleased. The other replied. Once their defense systems are compromised, the attack can begin. Amy's heart raced. She recognized those voices. They belonged to Vexthor maintenance workers who had arrived at the station last month. She had greeted them herself, believing they were part of the Coalition's technical exchange program. The voices faded as the figures moved away. Amy waited until she was sure they were gone, then pulled out her secure communicator. Martins to Security Chief Wright. Sir, we have a serious problem. Go ahead, officer, Wright's voice crackled through the device. I've confirmed sabotage at Europa Station. The Vexthor are behind the equipment failures. They're targeting our defense systems, and they mentioned someone named Commander Zarkax. There was a pause on the other end. Get to Dr. Phillips' lab immediately. If they're planning what I think they're planning, that lab will be their primary target. Amy moved quickly through the tunnels, her boots making no sound on the metal floor. She had learned to move silently during her years in station security, but she had never expected to use those skills against alien infiltrators. When she reached the lab section, she found Dr. Phillips and Lieutenant Mason already there, working late as usual. We need to leave now, she said as she entered. The station's been compromised. What? Laura looked up from her work. But we're so close to a breakthrough on the energy shield. That's exactly why we need to go, Amy insisted. The equipment failures weren't accidents. The Vexthor are sabotaging the station. They're planning an attack. Mason was already moving, grabbing the most important research data crystals. How much time do we have? Before Amy could answer, the lights flickered and died. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across the lab. A moment later, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Warning, the station's computer announced. Multiple system failures detected. Defense grid offline. Emergency protocols engage. That's our answer, Amy said grimly. We need to get to the emergency shuttle bay. Laura quickly began transferring files to a portable drive. They're trying to stop our research. They don't want us developing energy shield technology. The lab door slid open, revealing Zarl, the Synthos scientist. The artificial being's lights pulsed with urgent patterns. The Vexthor are making their move. They have disabled the station's main defenses and communication systems, but they do not know about the backup systems I installed. Backup systems? Mason asked. I suspected they might attempt something like this. I have a small ship docked at Maintenance Airlock 6. It can get you to the lunar base. A distant explosion rocked the station. Amy checked her wrist computer. They're starting to blow key junction points. We need to move now. They ran through the darkened corridors, following Zerl's glowing form. Behind them, more explosions echoed through the station. Amy could hear the sound of boots and weapons fire. The Vexthor were dropping all pretense now. Why help us? Laura asked Zerl as they ran. Because the Vexthor's actions threaten the very foundation of the Coalition, the synthetic being replied. And because you humans have shown us something remarkable. That evolution can create natural defenses we never imagined possible. Such knowledge should be preserved, not destroyed by fear. They reached the airlock just as the station's artificial gravity began to fail. Through the small window, Amy could see other ships breaking away from the station, escape pods carrying station personnel to safety. But she also saw larger ships emerging from behind Jupiter's moons. The Vex Thor fleet was finally revealing itself, and the real attack was about to begin. Commander Mary Nelson stood on the bridge of the Earth defense vessel Stargazer, watching as the massive Vex Thor fleet emerged from their hiding places across the solar system. Her tactical display showed hundreds of enemy ships moving into attack positions. "Status report," she ordered, her voice steady despite the crisis unfolding before her. 47 Vex Thor battleships detected, Commander, her sensor officer reported. "They're using kinetic weapons only, missiles, railguns, and mass drivers. No energy weapons." Mary nodded grimly. The Vex Thor had learned their lesson about energy weapons and humans, but conventional weapons could still kill, and the aliens had brought plenty of them. A communication alert flashed on her screen. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the Arcanian diplomatic fleet," her communications officer announced. The image of Ambassador Lyra appeared on the main screen, her silvery skin reflecting light. "Commander Nelson, the Arcanian Confederation officially condemns this unprovoked Vex Thor aggression. We stand with Earth." Mary felt a surge of hope. The Arcanians were one of the most powerful species in the Coalition. Their support could change everything. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The sensor officer called out. Synthos vessels approaching from the direction of Saturn. Meridian warships emerging from near Mercury. More allies were arriving. Species that had worked with humans, learned from them, and come to respect them were now choosing sides. The Vex Thor's betrayal of Coalition principles had not gone unnoticed. The bridge doors slid open, and Lieutenant Mason rushed in with Dr. Phillips and Officer Martinez. They had barely escaped the attack on Europa Station. "Commander," Laura said, holding up a data crystal, "we completed the research. We know how to replicate humanity's energy-dispersing ability in shield technology. We can protect our ships." "How long to implement it?" Mary asked. "Hours, maybe less with Synthos' help. Their quantum processors can handle the calculations faster than our computers." Mary turned to her tactical display. The Vex Thor fleet was moving into attack formation, but they hadn't opened fire yet. They were probably waiting for their commander to make a speech. The Vex Thor loved their speeches before battle. As if on cue, a new transmission came through. Commander Zarkax's scaled face filled the screen, his yellow eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Humans," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "Your biological quirk should never have been allowed to threaten the established order. Surrender now, and we will make your extinction quick and painless." Mary stood from her command chair, facing the screen. "This is Commander Nelson of Earth Defense. We did not ask for this fight, but we will not surrender. Your actions have already shown the Coalition your true nature. Look around you, Commander. You're not facing Earth alone." Zarkax's expression shifted as his tactical officers reported the arriving ships. Arcanian, Synthos, and Viridian vessels were taking up defensive positions around Earth's fleet. "You would side with these primitives," Zarkax demanded of the other alien commanders. "We side with progress," the Arcanian ambassador replied, "with cooperation over domination." "The humans have shown us new possibilities," added the Synthos leader, its voice a harmony of electronic tones. "Your fear of change blinds you to opportunity." Mary turned to Dr. Phillips. "Start implementing that shield technology. Mason, Martinez, help coordinate with our allies. All hands to battle stations." She sat back in her command chair as klaxons sounded throughout the ship. The Vex Thor ships began powering up their weapons. They had started this fight expecting to face Earth alone. Instead, they had united much of the Coalition against them. But Mary knew the battle ahead would still be desperate. The Vex Thor were proud and skilled warriors, and wounded pride often led to the bloodiest battles. "All ships, combat formation," she ordered. "Let's show them what humanity and its allies can do together." Dr. Laura Phillips worked frantically in the Stargazer's engineering bay. surrounded by humans and aliens all focused on implementing her energy-dispersing shield technology. The ship shuddered as another missile barrage hit their conventional shields. "Shield strength at 40%, announced the ship's computer. Zurl's metallic fingers moved in blur across the quantum interface. The calculations are proceeding faster than expected. Human cellular patterns are remarkably efficient at energy distribution." Laura nodded, her eyes fixed on the holographic display, showing the shield modification progress. Around her, Synthos engineers worked alongside humans, their combined knowledge pushing the boundaries of what either species could do alone. "How much longer?" Lieutenant Mason asked from his position by the door. He was coordinating with Officer Martinez, who was helping organize the combined fleet's defensive formations. 10 minutes, Laura replied, then grabbed a railing as the ship rocked from another hit. Maybe less if these calculations hold up. On the main screen, they could see the space battle raging. The Vexthor fleet had broken into smaller attack groups, trying to overwhelm Earth's defenses with conventional weapons. Missile trails crisscrossed space like deadly spider webs. Railed gunshots left brief trails of ionized particles as they streaked between ships. Multiple hull breaches on decks 5 through 8, the computer reported. Emergency force fields holding. Laura's hands flew over the control panel. The shield modifications were almost ready, but they needed more time. She looked up at the screen showing Commander Nelson on the bridge, calmly directing the battle despite the chaos around her. "Dr. Phillips," Mary's voice came through the comm system. "Status update." "Nearly there, Commander. The Synthos processing power made all the difference. We're about to attempt the first test." "Make it quick, Doctor. Our conventional shields won't hold much longer." Laura turned to Zurl, ready to initiate the test sequence. The synthetic beam's lights pulsed in agreement. Quantum calculations complete, beginning energy field generation. They had replicated the unique properties of human cellular structure in an energy field, creating a shield that could absorb and redistribute energy like human tissue. But they had never tested it at this scale. Initiating test in 3, 2, 1. Laura pressed the activation sequence. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a new kind of shield shimmer appeared around the ship, different from the blue glow of conventional shields. This one had a subtle, almost organic pattern to it. "Incoming missile barrage," Martinez called out over the comm. Everyone in engineering held their breath as they watched the missiles approach on the tactical display. The new shields lit up as the missiles hit, but instead of the usual violent shaking, there was only a slight vibration. "Shield strength holding at 98%, the computer announced. "No significant damage detected." A cheer went up in engineering. The new shields were working even better than they had hoped. "Send the shield modifications to all Allied ships," Commander Nelson ordered. Priority transmission. Laura and Zurl began transmitting the shield specifications to the combined fleet. Across space, ship after ship began implementing the new technology. The organic-looking shield patterns spread across the Allied vessels like a wave. "The Vexthor are adjusting their attack pattern," Mason reported, watching the tactical display. "They're trying to concentrate fire on ships that haven't upgraded their shields yet." "Then we give them cover while they upgrade," Laura said. She turned to Zurl. "Can we extend our shield bubble to protect nearby ships?" The synthetic beam's lights pulse with rapid calculations. "Yes. The energy distribution pattern should allow for field extension without significant power loss." Commander Nelson's voice came through again. "Dr. Phillips, you've just changed the course of this battle. Now let's end it before the Vexthor realize they've lost their advantage." Laura watched as more Allied ships activated their new shields, their combined defense growing stronger with each passing minute. They had taken humanity's unique trait and turned it into protection for all species who stood with Earth. It wasn't just a scientific breakthrough anymore. It was proof that cooperation was stronger than fear. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Commander Mary Nelson stood in the grand chamber of the newly formed Galactic Council. The massive room, built within an asteroid in neutral space, represented everything humanity had achieved since the Vex Thor attack. Representatives from every coalition species sat in curved rows, their attention focused on the central platform where Mary waited to speak. "The human delegation may proceed," announced the Meridian chief speaker, his ancient voice carrying across the chamber. Mary stepped forward. "6 months ago, we faced a choice between fear and cooperation. The Vex Thor chose fear. They saw humanity's natural resistance to energy weapons as a threat rather than an opportunity. That choice led to battle, and ultimately, to their defeat." She paused, looking around the chamber. The Vex Thor seats were notably empty. After their fleet's surrender, they had withdrawn from the coalition, retreating to their home systems to rebuild and reconsider their place in galactic society. "But from that conflict came something remarkable," Mary continued. "Dr. Laura Phillips and her team, working with Synthos and Arcanian scientists, didn't just develop new shield technology. They proved that our differences can make us stronger when we work together." In the front row, Laura sat between Zerl and Lieutenant Mason. The human scientist had become a symbol of interspecies cooperation. Her work had not stopped with shield technology. The research team was now exploring other unique traits of various species, looking for more innovations that could benefit everyone. Officer Martinez, standing guard near the chamber entrance, smiled as she watched Earth's former enemies now sitting as allies. The new shield technology had been shared with all coalition species, even the Vex Thor. It was offered as a gesture of peace, showing that humans believed in protection for all, not just their allies. "Today, we're here to formalize Earth's full membership in the coalition," Mary announced. "But we're also here to propose changes. The old coalition was built on fear of differences. The new coalition must be built on celebrating them." Chief Security Officer Wright, now head of coalition security operations, nodded from his position among the security delegation. The new defensive technologies developed from human traits had already saved lives in natural disasters and accidents across coalition space. Each species here evolved under different conditions, Mary explained. The Arcanians developed their silvery skin to reflect their binary suns. The Synthos evolved from organic beings into synthetic life to survive their dying world. The Meridians adapted to live for centuries in the void of space. And yes, humans evolved a natural resistance to energy weapons because of our planet's electrical storms. She gestured to the grand chamber around them. "This new council chamber represents our new approach. Built by combining technologies and designs from all our species, it's stronger than anything we could have created alone." The chamber's crystal walls, built using Arcanian techniques, were reinforced with Synthos quantum fields. Human-inspired energy-dispersing shields protected the entire facility, while Meridian gravity technology kept everything stable within the asteroid. "Therefore," Mary concluded, "I propose that our first act as full members of the coalition be the establishment of the Interspecies Innovation Initiative. Every member world will share their unique biological and technological advantages, working together to turn different evolutionary paths into shared strengths." The chamber erupted in approval. Even the most conservative species had seen the benefits of cooperation over the past 6 months. New technologies and discoveries were already emerging from unprecedented collaboration between worlds. As the vote was recorded as unanimous, Mary caught Laura's eye and smiled. They had come so far from that first surprising discovery of humanity's energy weapon resistance. What had started as a potential source of conflict had become the foundation of a stronger, more united galaxy. The chamber's crystalline walls sparkled with the colors of 100 different worlds' technologies working in harmony. It was a new era for humanity and their alien allies, one built not on fear of differences, but on the strength they could find in them.